Amid silent mists and vibrant orchids, an elderly woman lives surrounded by equal parts beauty and cruelty. Behind the curtains of the grand house, her daughter-in-law weaves an empire of control with subtle threats and poisoned affection. But a new maid with observant eyes and a righteous heart begins to dismantle this theater of appearances. And when truth finds its voice, not even the oldest silence can stop everything from changing forever. The cold light of St. Jude's Hospital corridor in London reflected on the white walls with an intensity that seemed to amplify the silence. Marina Albright adjusted herself in the beige leather armchair, feeling the weight of her 7-month pregnant belly press against the belt of her navy blue dress. Her delicate, well-manicured hands stroked her abdomen in circular motions, as if trying to soothe not only the baby but herself. It was Tuesday, 10 in the morning. Her routine appointment was scheduled for 10:15. Marina looked at her phone for the 5th time in less than 3 minutes. No message, no call. Raphael Miller, her husband, had promised to be there. Once again, the promise had dissolved into thin air like all the others. Marina sighed deeply, trying to contain the wave of frustration rising in her chest. Married for 4 years to Raphael Miller, an executive at one of the country's largest real estate developers, she had learned that absences were more frequent than presences. In the beginning, she believed the excuses: urgent meetings, last-minute negotiations, unavoidable commitments. Today, Marina knew that each absence carried the scent of a perfume that wasn't hers. The receptionist called her name. Marina stood up with difficulty, feeling the extra weight on her hips and lower back. She walked down the corridor to the examination room, where the doctor, Dr. Clara Rivers, greeted her with a professional and warm smile. 40 minutes later, Marina was back in the waiting room. The ultrasound had gone well. The baby was healthy, active, growing as expected. A boy. Marina smiled, remembering the images on the screen, the tiny heart beating strongly, the little arms and legs moving. That baby was all that remained real in her life. All that still made sense. She picked up her bag and prepared to leave when she heard the sound of high heels echoing down the corridor. Something in that sound made her stop. It was a confident, determined, almost aggressive walk. Marina turned and felt the air leave her lungs. The woman entering the waiting room was tall, elegant, dressed in a sophisticated grey tailored suit, dark hair pulled back in an impeccable bun, perfect makeup, precisely drawn red lips. But it wasn't the beauty that shocked Marina. It was the recognition. That face had been seen in discreet photographs, in social media posts Raphael tried to hide, in whispered conversations among friends who pitied her. Isabella Montgomery, the mistress. Marina felt her blood run cold. For a moment, she thought of simply leaving, ignoring, pretending she hadn't seen, but her feet seemed glued to the floor. Isabella walked directly towards her, a cruel smile curving her red lips. "Hello, Marina. What a surprise to find you here." The voice was velvety, but laden with venom. Marina clutched her bag strap so tightly that her knuckles turned white. "Isabella, I don't know what you're doing here, but this is neither the place nor the time." "Not the place," Isabella laughed, a metallic, unpleasant sound. "Funny. I could say the same about you in Raphael's life." Marina felt her face burn. The few people in the waiting room began to look discreetly in their direction. A nurse stood up, concerned. "Have you no shame?" Marina found courage in her indignation. "I'm 7 months pregnant. I'm married to him. You're the intruder." "Married?" Isabella took a step forward, invading Marina's personal space. "Married to a man who spends more nights in my bed than in yours, a man who promised me he'd leave you as soon as this child was born." The words were like slaps. Marina felt her legs buckle. She knew about the betrayal, but to hear it, there, at that moment, was a humiliation beyond endurance. "You're lying." "Am I?" Isabella pulled her phone from her bag and began scrolling through the screen. "Do you want to see the messages, the photos, or would you prefer I read them aloud for everyone here to hear?" Marina tried to back away, but Isabella grabbed her arm firmly. The nurse approached quickly. "Madam, I must ask you to calm down. This is a hospital environment." Isabella released Marina's arm with a disdainful shove. Marina, unbalanced by the weight of her belly and the speed of the movement, staggered backward. She tried to steady herself on the armchair, but her fingers slipped. The world spun. The floor rushed up too fast. The impact was dry, painful. Marina felt her hip hit the cold floor, then her shoulder. A scream escaped her throat. But it wasn't from physical pain. It was terror. Terror for the baby. Screams echoed through the room. The nurse knelt beside Marina, shouting for help. Another staff member ran to call the doctors. Isabella stood still, pale, her eyes wide, as if only now realizing what she had done. I didn't mean to." Her voice came out shaky, broken. Marina felt sharp pains in her abdomen. Her vision began to blur. The voices around her became distant, muffled. She placed a hand on her belly, trying to feel some movement from the baby. Please, be okay." Dr. Clara Rivers rushed down the corridor with a team of nurses. Marina was quickly placed on a stretcher. As she was wheeled to the emergency room, her eyes met Isabella's one last time. The other woman was motionless, her face a mask of shock and panic. Then everything went black. As Marina was rushed to surgery, no one noticed the small security camera in the upper corner of the waiting room. The hospital's surveillance system recorded everything in high definition. Every word, every gesture, every second of that morning that would change lives forever. 200 miles away, in the panoramic office of a corporate building in Canary Wharf, Octavius Albright finished a meeting with foreign investors. At 62, the patriarch of the Albright family was a living legend in the British financial market. Founder of the Albright Group, which controlled banks, insurance companies, and investment funds, Octavius had built an empire with an iron fist and a sharp mind, a man of medium height, impeccably combed grey hair, penetrating blue eyes that seemed to read souls. Octavius was known as much for his generosity towards social causes as for his ruthlessness with enemies. He did not forgive disloyalty. He did not tolerate weakness. His cell phone vibrated in his pocket. It was Beatrice, his personal secretary for 20 years. "Mr. Albright, you need to go to St. Jude's Hospital immediately. It's Marina. There's been an incident." Octavius felt his heart race. Beatrice never used that tone unless it was serious. "Face, what happened?" "An accident. Mrs. Albright fell at the hospital. They're doing emergency tests on the baby." Octavius didn't wait to hear more. He hung up, grabbed his jacket, and strode out of the office. His mind was already working at high speed, processing scenarios, consequences, necessary actions. Marina was his only daughter, the baby, his first grandchild. If anything happened to them, there would be a price to pay. And Octavius Albright always collected his prices. At the hospital, Marina slowly opened her eyes. The white light from the ceiling blinded her for a moment. Her head felt heavy, her mouth dry, tubes connected to her arm, monitors beeping beside the bed. It took a few seconds to remember where she was and why. The baby. She tried to sit up, but a nurse gently prevented her. "Calm down, dear. You need to stay lying down. The doctor will be in to speak with you shortly." Is my son okay?" The nurse smiled, a smile that brought genuine relief. "He's fine. The baby is fine, but you had a serious scare. We need to monitor both of you for a few hours." Marina closed her eyes and let the tears flow. Tears of relief, exhaustion, anger, all mixed into an emotion impossible to name. The room door opened, and Octavius entered like a contained storm. His expression was one of pure, controlled fury. He walked to the bed and held his daughter's hand, with a delicacy that contrasted with the hardness of his gaze. "Marina, my girl, what happened?" Marina told him everything, every word from Isabella, the shove, the fall. Octavius listened in silence, but Marina could see his jaw clench, the muscles in his neck tighten. When she finished, Octavius stood up and walked to the window. He stood there, looking at the city below, his back rigid, his hands clenched into fists. "She will pay for what she did. Every second of suffering you endured, she will pay double. Father, don't do anything rash." "Rash?" Octavius turned, his eyes glowing with terrifying intensity. "That woman put you and my grandson at risk. This will not stand. And what about Raphael?" The question hung in the air like a blade. Octavius did not answer immediately. He knew his son-in-law was complicit. He knew Raphael had fueled that situation, but Raphael was the child's father. It was complicated. Raphael will also answer, one way or another. Marina closed her eyes again. Part of her wanted her father to act, to bring justice, to destroy everyone who had hurt her. Another part feared what Octavius was capable of when provoked. He was not a man of half measures. He was a man of total war. Meanwhile, on the ground floor of the hospital, Isabella Montgomery sat on a bench in the car park, trembling. Her hands were sweating. Her phone rang insistently, but she didn't dare answer. It was Raphael. He must already know. The news had probably already spread. What had she done? How had she lost control like that? Marina was the legitimate wife, but Isabella had always felt like Raphael's true owner. He spent more time with her, shared more secrets, seemed more alive by her side. But now, with that shove, Isabella had crossed a line that could not be undone. She thought about fleeing, taking a plane, disappearing, starting over somewhere else. But she knew it was useless. Octavius Albright would find her. Men like him always did. Raphael Miller parked his car in an emergency bay at the hospital so fast he almost hit the curb. His hands trembled as he took the key from the ignition. Beatrice's call had been direct and devastating. Marina hospitalized, baby at risk, Isabella involved. He got out of the car and ran to the main entrance, his tie crooked, his jacket askew. At 38, Raphael had the appearance of someone accustomed to success. Tall, broad-shouldered, dark hair, slicked back, strong jaw, but at that moment his expression was one of pure panic. At the information desk, he tried to find out which room Marina was in. The attendant, a middle-aged woman with a tired expression, slowly checked the system, chewing gum. Marina Albright, room 312, third floor. Raphael headed for the elevators, but before he could press the button, a firm hand gripped his shoulder. He turned and met Octavius Albright's icy gaze. "We need to talk." Now, Octavius's voice left no room for argument. Raphael felt a chill run down his spine. He had always had a cordial relationship with his father-in-law, but he always knew Octavius was a dangerous man when provoked. And now, in his eyes, Raphael could see that he had been provoked. "Mr. Albright, I need to see Marina. I need to know if she's okay. She is stable. The baby, too. But that doesn't change the fact that you have a mistress who almost killed my daughter and my grandson." Raphael felt the ground disappear beneath his feet. He had hoped that his involvement with Isabella would remain discreet, at least until he found a way to end his marriage without scandal. But now everything had collapsed. It was an accident. Isabella never meant to. An accident. Octavius took a step forward, invading Raphael's personal space. "You let your pregnant wife go to a doctor's appointment alone while you were with your mistress. You allowed this woman to feel entitled to confront Marina. You are responsible for every second of pain my daughter felt." Raphael opened his mouth to reply, but no words came out, because deep down he knew Octavius was right. "I'm going upstairs now to see Marina. You will wait here, and then you and I will have a very long conversation about the future." Octavius turned and entered the elevator. The doors closed, leaving Raphael alone in the lobby, feeling smaller than ever. On the third floor, Octavius walked down the corridor to Marina's room. Inside, she was awake, sitting in bed with a distant expression. Seeing her father, her eyes filled with tears again. "Father, I don't want Raphael in here. Please, he won't come in. Not as long as you don't want him to." Octavius sat in the chair beside the bed and held her hand. "But Marina, I need to tell you something. The security camera footage from the waiting room has been sent to my office. Beatrice managed to get a copy." Marina wiped her tears. "And what does it show?" "It shows everything. Every word that woman said. The shove, your fall. It's irrefutable evidence." Marina felt a mixture of relief and dread. Relief, because there was proof of what had happened. Dread because she knew that with that proof in hand, her father would spare no effort to destroy Isabella. And probably Raphael too. "And what will you do with the footage?" "I will use it to ensure justice is served." Octavius squeezed his daughter's hand. "Marina, you are my only daughter. This baby is my first grandson. I will not let anyone who threatened you go unpunished." Marina knew it was useless to argue. When Octavius made a decision, it was irreversible. She merely nodded, too tired to fight. Later that same night, Octavius called a meeting in his private office in Canary Wharf. Present were Beatrice, his secretary, and Marcus Taylor, the Albright family's personal lawyer for over 15 years. Marcus, a thin, spectacled man in his 50s with thinning hair, was known for his efficiency and discretion. He had pulled the Albright family out of more crises than one could count. Octavius, Marcus began, placing a folder of documents on the table. We've analyzed the footage. It's a clear case of assault. We can prosecute Isabella Montgomery criminally. The fact that Marina was pregnant and put at risk aggravates the situation. I want her to feel the weight of every action she took. Octavius drummed his fingers on the table. But before we proceed legally, I want to know everything about her, where she was born, who she associates with, what she eats for breakfast, everything. Beatrice is already handling that. Marcus nodded. I will have a complete dossier by tomorrow morning. And what about Raphael? Marcus sighed. Raphael is more complicated. He's the child's father. Any legal action against him could have repercussions for Marina and the baby, but we can pressure him in other ways. Commercial contracts, for example. The Albright Group has investments in several companies that do business with his real estate firm. Excellent. I want every contract re-evaluated, every partnership reviewed. I want him to feel that everything he's built is hanging by a thread. Marcus made notes quickly. What if he tries to approach Marina, tries for a reconciliation? Marina doesn't want to see him, and I will ensure she is not pressured into it. Octavia stood up and walked to the window, looking at the city lights. This family will emerge stronger from this, but not before teaching a lesson to anyone who thought they could harm us without consequences. While Octavius planned his next moves, Isabella was locked in her apartment in Chelsea, curtains drawn, phone on silent. She sat on the white leather sofa, hugging her knees. Raphael had called 20 times. He had sent desperate messages, but she couldn't talk to him, not now, not after what she had done. Isabella looked around the apartment. Every piece of furniture, every object, every detail had been carefully chosen. It was a perfect, impeccable place that reflected the image she had built of herself. Sophisticated, successful, desirable. But now, everything seemed fake, a facade about to crumble. She took a bottle of wine from the cellar and poured a full glass. She drank half of it in one gulp, feeling the liquid burn her throat. She needed to think. She needed to find a way out. But every time she closed her eyes, she saw Marina falling. She saw the terror on her face. She saw the nurses running. The intercom rang, making Isabella jump off the sofa. She went to the device, trembling. "Who is it? Delivery service. I have an envelope for Mrs. Isabella Montgomery." Isabella frowned. She hadn't ordered anything. She hesitated, but finally pressed the button to unlock the entrance. Minutes later, the doorbell rang. She opened the door and took the envelope from the hands of a motorcyclist, who said not a word before leaving. Isabella closed the door and tore open the envelope. Inside, there was a single sheet of paper. On it, 2 words printed in large black letters. "We know." Isabella felt her blood run cold. Who had sent that? What did they know? She turned the paper over, looking for more information, but it was blank. Suddenly, her phone rang. Unknown number. With a trembling hand, she answered. "Hello?" A deep, distorted male voice answered from the other end. "Mrs. Montgomery, you made a grave mistake today, and mistakes have consequences. Who are you? What do you want?" "It doesn't matter who I am. What matters is that I have the footage of what happened today at the hospital, and those images can end your life, or they can disappear. It's up to you." Isabella felt her legs weaken. Blackmail. This was blackmail. "What do you want?" "For now, just for you to know you're being watched. Every move, every decision. We'll talk soon." The call was cut. Isabella let her phone fall to the floor and leaned against the wall, breathing with difficulty. Her life was crumbling, and she didn't know how to stop it. At the hospital, Marina finally fell asleep after hours of restlessness, but her sleep was disturbed by fragmented dreams. She saw Isabella laughing. She saw Raphael disappearing into a mist. She saw her father transformed into a dark, vengeful figure. When she woke up, it was already dawn. The room was plunged into a bluish gloom. She looked to her side and saw a figure sitting in the armchair near the window. Her heart raced until she recognized the silhouette. "Father, what are you doing awake?" Octavia stood up and walked to the bed. "I couldn't sleep. I keep thinking about everything that could have happened. How I could have lost you and my grandson." Marina saw tears in her father's eyes. It was rare to see Octavia show such emotions. He had always been a controlled, measured man. But there, at that moment, he was just a scared father. "We're fine, Father." "We'll be fine, I know." Octavius quickly wiped his eyes, regaining his composure. "And I'll make sure nothing like this happens again. I'll protect you, whatever the cost." Marina held her father's hand. "Just don't lose yourself in the process. Don't let vengeance turn you into something you're not." Octavius smiled, a sad, tired smile. "Perhaps it's too late for that, Marina. Perhaps I am already what I need to be to keep this family safe." A week had passed since the hospital incident. Marina was discharged from the hospital with a recommendation for absolute rest and strict monitoring. Octavius insisted she temporarily move to the family mansion in Kensington Gardens, where she could receive constant care. Marina accepted without resistance. The idea of returning to the apartment she shared with Raphael was unbearable. The Albright mansion was an imposing property, hidden behind high walls and meticulously maintained gardens. 3 floors of classical architecture, with white columns on the facade, a heated pool, and a privileged view of the rare greenery in London. Marina grew up there, among the spacious corridors and expansive rooms. Now, she sought refuge in her childhood bedroom, surrounded by memories of simpler times. Beatrice took on the role of unofficial caregiver. She brought balanced meals, calming teas, magazines, and books to distract Marina, but the young woman spent most of her time looking out the window, stroking her belly, lost in thought. Raphael had tried to visit her 3 times. Each time, Octavia stopped him at the door. On the last attempt, the argument was so heated that the property's security guards had to intervene. "You have no right to stop me from seeing my wife," Raphael shouted, his face red with anger and frustration. "She doesn't want to see you, and as long as she's under my roof, you will respect her wishes." Octavius remained calm, but his voice carried an authority that brooked no questioning. "This is kidnapping. This is protection, and if you try to force entry again, I will get a restraining order." Raphael left furious, but powerless. Octavius had enough resources and influence to make his life hell, and he was starting to do exactly that. That same morning, Marcus Taylor arrived at the mansion with a voluminous folder. Octavius received him in the library, a room lined with mahogany bookshelves filled with rare books and first editions. "The dossier is complete." Marcus placed the folder on the oak table. Isabella Montgomery, 33 years old, born in Birmingham, West Midlands, only child of a couple who separated when she was 5. Her mother passed away when she was 14. Her father, a bankrupt businessman, disappeared shortly after. Isabella was raised by an aunt who, according to records, had a drinking problem. Octavius leafed through the documents. Old photographs showed a young Isabella, very different from the sophisticated woman of today. Too thin, simple clothes, a lost look. She had a difficult adolescence, Marcus continued. She moved to London at 18, worked as a sales assistant in several luxury stores. That's when she started frequenting wealthier circles. She had some relationships with older men, all married, all rich, a social climber. Not just that, Marcus pointed to a specific document. She spent 3 years in a relationship with a textile magnate. When he tried to break up, she threatened him with public exposure. He paid a significant sum for her to disappear discreetly. Blackmail. Octavius clenched his teeth. So she has experience with this? Apparently, yes. And with the money she received, she invested in her transformation. Plastic surgeries, refined education. She built a new identity. Today she works as a fashion consultant for high-net-worth women. That's how she met Raphael. He hired her services to organize a corporate party. Octavius absorbed all the information. Isabella's story was more complex than he imagined. She wasn't just a one-dimensional villain. She was a woman shaped by abandonment and rejection, who learned to use her appearance and intelligence as weapons of survival. This did not excuse her, but it explained. "Does this change anything?" Marcus asked, studying Octavius's expression. "No." Octavius closed the folder firmly. "It doesn't matter how many tragedies she lived through. What she did to Marina is unforgivable. We will move forward with the prosecution. There's one more thing." Marcus hesitated. "Isabella is being blackmailed. We intercepted a call made to her 3 days ago. Someone has the footage of the incident and is using it to pressure her." Octavius frowned. "Who?" "We don't know yet. The voice was distorted, but we're tracing it. It could be someone from the hospital who had access to the recordings, or it could be something else. Keep investigating. I want to know who it is and what they want." Marcus left, leaving Octavius alone in the library. He picked up one of the old photos of Isabella and stared at it. That lost girl in the teenager's eyes was not the same woman who pushed his daughter, but the transformation had not been gentle. It had been calculated, cold, and now she would pay the price. Upstairs, Marina was sitting on the balcony of her room when there was a knock at the door. It was Beatrice, bringing lunch. "You need to eat, dear. The baby needs nutrients." Marina accepted the tray, but barely touched the food. Beatrice sat in a nearby chair. "May I ask a personal question?" Marina nodded. "Do you still love Raphael?" Marina remained silent for a long moment. When she finally responded, her voice was choked. "I loved the man I thought he was, but that man never truly existed. Raphael was always who he is now. I was just too blind to see." "And what will you do?" "I don't know." Marina touched her belly. "This baby deserves a present, father, but I can't look at Raphael without feeling disgusted, without remembering everything he did. All the times he lied, all the nights he spent with her while I waited at home. You don't have to make any decisions now." Beatrice held Marina's hand. "Focus on yourself and the baby. The rest will come later." Marina nodded, but knew it wasn't that simple. Decisions would need to be made, and soon. Meanwhile, in a luxurious office in the Shard, Raphael met with his own lawyers. There were 3 men in suits, all with grave expressions. "Mr. Miller, you need to understand the gravity of the situation." The lead lawyer, a bald man in his 60s named Albert Foster, adjusted his glasses. "Octavius Albright is mobilizing significant resources. We've already received notification that 2 of your largest contracts are being re-evaluated. This represents 40% of your annual revenue." "He can't do that." Raphael slammed his fist on the table. "We have signed contracts. Contracts that have termination clauses under certain circumstances, and the Albright Group is invoking those clauses. Technically, they are within legal bounds. This is personal persecution." "It may be, but proving that in court would take years, and by then your company may not survive." Albert opened a folder. "My recommendation is that you attempt a negotiation. Approach Marina respectfully, show genuine remorse, offer a separation agreement favorable to her. This might calm Octavius." "And Isabella, what do I do with her?" "Distance." Albert was direct. "Any contact with her at this time only worsens your situation. If you are prosecuted as an accomplice in the incident, you could lose much more than contracts." Raphael leaned back in his chair, running his hands over his face. His life was falling apart. Everything he had built, all his achievements, were being destroyed because of stupid decisions. And the worst part was that he knew he deserved it. That night, Isabella received another call from the unknown number. This time, she was prepared. She recorded the conversation. "Mrs. Montgomery." The distorted voice sounded even more sinister. "I see you still haven't learned your lesson. What do you want from me?" "Justice." The person on the other end of the line paused. "You hurt someone you shouldn't have, and now you need to pay, but I'm willing to offer an alternative." "What alternative?" "A public confession, a televised apology, and a significant donation to institutions that support vulnerable pregnant women. Do that, and the images disappear. And if I refuse, then Octavius Albright won't be your only problem. I have contacts in the press. I can imagine what it would be like if your entire story came out, every detail, every past relationship, every secret you hide." Isabella felt her throat tighten. "How much time do I have?" 48 hours. The call was cut. Isabella threw her phone on the sofa and started pacing. She was cornered. If she made the public confession, she would admit guilt and facilitate the criminal process. If she didn't, she would be exposed even more brutally. There was no good way out. She picked up her phone again and, for the first time in a week, called Raphael. He answered on the first ring. "Isabella, where are you? I'm worried." "We're screwed, Raphael. Completely screwed." "What are you talking about?" Isabella told him about the calls, the blackmail, the threats. Raphael listened in growing silence. "Don't do anything. Don't answer those calls anymore. I'll have my lawyer talk to you." "Your lawyer can't help me. No one can." Isabella felt tears streaming down her face. "I messed everything up. I messed up your life, my life, that woman's life, and now there's no going back. Isabella, listen." Raphael's voice tried to be comforting, but it was filled with fear. "We'll find a solution. There's always a solution." But both knew that this time there might not be. 2 weeks had passed since the incident. Marina was physically stronger, but emotionally she remained fragile. Medical consultations showed that the baby remained healthy, with no lasting effects from the fall. This brought some relief, but it didn't erase the trauma. Octavius announced that the Albright Foundation's traditional annual charity gala would be held as planned. The event took place every year at the Savoy Hotel, bringing together London's business and political elite. This year, the proceeds would go to programs supporting low-income pregnant women. Marina initially objected. She didn't want to appear in public, didn't want to be looked at with pity or curiosity. But Octavius insisted. "You can't hide forever," he said, sitting beside her on the mansion's balcony. "And this gala is the perfect opportunity to show that you are well, that you are strong, that you were not destroyed by what happened." "I don't feel strong, Father." "But you are." Octavius held her hand. "And even if you don't feel it, you need to appear so. People are watching, waiting to see if you will bend or rise. Show them." Marina knew her father was right. In their world, perception was everything. Showing weakness was inviting attacks. She agreed to go. On the night of the gala, Marina wore a long dark blue dress that elegantly disguised her 8-month pregnancy. Beatrice helped her with her hair and makeup, creating a sophisticated but natural look. When Marina looked in the mirror, she barely recognized the woman she saw. She looked like someone in control, confident, untouchable. She looked like her father. The arrival of the Albrights at the Savoy Hotel caused a stir. Photographers flashed their cameras. Reporters shouted questions. Octavius kept Marina close, protecting her with his imposing presence. They entered the main ballroom, a stunning space with crystal chandeliers, golden decor, and perfectly set tables. About 300 guests were already present. Businessmen, politicians, artists, philanthropists, all dressed in their finest clothes, all displaying their most calculated smiles. Marina felt the weight of hundreds of eyes on her, some curious, others sympathetic, many simply gossiping. Octavius guided her to the main table. There were some of the family's closest allies and members of the foundation's board. All greeted Marina with exaggerated affection, careful questions about her health and vague comments about the incident. Dinner was served. Smoked salmon, mushroom risotto, red fruit dessert. Marina ate little, her stomach churning with tension. Octavius gave his annual speech, talking about the importance of supporting vulnerable pregnant women, about giving opportunities to those who hadn't had the same privileged conditions. The irony of the words did not go unnoticed by Marina. After dinner, the charity auction began. Artworks, jewelry, trips, exclusive experiences. Bids rose quickly, driven more by ego competition than genuine generosity. Marina observed everything with an almost clinical detachment, as if watching a play. Then Octavius went on stage again. His expression was serious, different from the light tone he had maintained during dinner. "Ladies and gentlemen, before we conclude this evening, I would like to share something important, something that directly touches the cause we support here today." The hall fell silent. Marina felt her heart race. What was her father about to do? 2 weeks ago, my daughter Marina was the victim of an assault while awaiting a medical appointment. She was 7 months pregnant. The assault put at risk not only her life, but the life of my grandson. Murmurs spread through the hall. Some people already knew the story through rumors, but hearing Octavius publicly confirm it was different. I brought this tonight not only to celebrate our foundation, but to show all of you what happens when pregnant women are placed in vulnerable situations. And I'm not just talking about economic vulnerability. I'm talking about emotional vulnerability, about abuse, about violence. Octavius signaled to the sound operator. The lights in the hall dimmed. A giant screen descended behind the stage, and then the hospital security camera footage began to play. Marina felt her blood run cold. She didn't know her father would do this. Not like this. Not publicly. The images showed everything. Isabella's arrival, the argument, the cruel words, the shove, Marina's fall, the panic of the nurses. It was brutal, visceral, impossible to ignore. When the footage ended, the silence in the hall was absolute. Then, slowly, eyes began to move, searching. Until someone pointed. Isabella was there. She had arrived as the companion of a real estate businessman, an acquaintance of Raphael's. She wore a long red dress, her hair loose, trying to maintain her composure. But when she realized everyone was looking at her, her mask cracked. Octavius continued, his voice echoing through the hall. The woman you just saw in the footage is here with us tonight, Isabella Montgomery. And I would like her to explain to all of us what led her to assault a pregnant woman, what led her to put an innocent life at risk. Isabella stood up, trembling. I didn't mean to. It was an accident. An accident. Octavius descended from the stage, walking towards her. The images clearly show a deliberate shove. They show your words calculated to hurt. This was no accident. It was cruelty. The businessman accompanying Isabella moved away from her, clearly uncomfortable. Isabella was left alone, surrounded by accusatory stares. Please. Her voice came out weak. You don't understand. You don't know what it's like to live in someone's shadow, what it's like to always be the second option, always hidden. I lost my head. I know I made a mistake, but I'm not a monster. No! Octavius was now a few feet from her. Then what are you? Because someone who isn't a monster doesn't do what you did. Isabella began to cry. Tears streamed down, smudging her makeup. I'm so sorry. Looking at Marina. I'm so sorry for what I did. I had no right. I was wrong about everything. About getting involved with Raphael. About confronting you, about not controlling my anger. I destroyed my life and yours because of a man who isn't even worth it. Marina felt something stir within her. It wasn't the baby. It was something deeper, pity, anger, confusion, all mixed together. Octavius showed no compassion. Tears don't change what you did. They don't erase the pain. They don't restore the safety you stole from my daughter. I know. Isabella wiped her face with her hands. I know nothing I say or do will fix it. But I need you to know that I'm not just this. I'm not just this horrible moment. I'm a person who was broken long before I broke someone else. Everyone in the hall watched the scene as if it were live theater, some with horror, others with morbid fascination. Marina suddenly stood up, her voice cut through the silence. Enough, father. Octavius turned, surprised. Marina. Enough. Marina walked to the center of the hall, stopping between her father and Isabella. I will not let my pain be turned into a spectacle. I will not let you use my story to satisfy your desire for revenge. Marina, I'm doing this for you. Octavius seemed genuinely confused. No, you're doing this for you, to show that no one messes with the Albrights without paying the price. But I am not you, and I don't want to be. Marina turned to Isabella. You hurt me. You hurt my son, and I will carry that scar forever. But I will not let it define me. I will not let hatred consume me as it consumed you. Isabella sobbed and unable to speak. I hope you find help. I hope you find peace. Because clearly, you have neither. Marina looked at everyone in the hall. And as for you, who are here drinking champagne while watching others in suffering, I hope you remember that we are all human. We all make mistakes, some more serious than others, but none of us is just our worst moment. Marina left the hall, leaving behind a stunned silence. Octavius stood still, processing what had happened. Isabella collapsed into a chair, burying her face in her hands. Outside, Marina breathed the fresh night air. Feeling the tears finally stream down, Beatrice appeared beside her, placing a shawl over her shoulders. That was very brave. Or very stupid. Marina wiped her tears. But I couldn't anymore. I couldn't let him turn this into a war. There's been too much pain already. What will you do now? Marina touched her belly, feeling the baby move. I'm going to focus on being a mother, on building a new life, away from all this, from all of them. 3 months had passed since the gala. Marina had given birth to a healthy baby boy named Lucas. The delivery was smooth, without complications, and for the first time in a long time, Marina felt something akin to happiness as she held her son in her arms. Raphael tried to be present, but Marina kept her distance. He could visit his son under supervision, but any talk of reconciliation was immediately shut down. Marina had initiated divorce proceedings, seeking full custody of Lucas. Raphael did not contest. He knew he had no arguments. Meanwhile, the criminal case against Isabella progressed. Marcus Taylor had built a solid case, supported by security camera footage, witness testimonies, and medical reports proving the risk to which Marina and the baby had been exposed. The trial date was set for a Thursday morning. The Old Bailey Central Criminal Court was packed. Journalists, curious onlookers, law students, all wanted to witness what had become one of London's most talked-about cases. Marina arrived accompanied by Octavius and Beatrice. She wore a grey pantsuit and blazer, her hair pulled back in an elegant bun, her expression serene but determined. Lucas had stayed at home with a nanny. Marina did not want to expose him to that environment. Across the corridor, Isabella arrived with her defense lawyer, Henry Campbell, a criminal defense attorney known for handling difficult cases. Isabella was visibly thinner, her face pale, deep circles under her eyes. The last few months had been devastating. She had lost her apartment, her work contracts, the few friends she had. She was living in a rented room in the East End, surviving on rapidly dwindling savings. The judge, Judge Paul Harrison, a 60-year-old man with decades of experience, entered the courtroom. Everyone stood. The trial began. Prosecutor Alexander Nelson presented the prosecution's case with surgical precision. He showed the images again, this time to the jury. He called hospital witnesses. Doctors explained the risks to which Marina and the baby had been exposed. Nurses described the chaotic scene. A psychologist testified about the emotional trauma Marina had suffered. The defense countered by trying to humanize Isabella. Henry Campbell called a psychologist who had worked with Isabella after the incident. The professional described Isabella's childhood traumas, paternal abandonment, the abuses suffered, the development of destructive defense mechanisms. Character witnesses spoke about times Isabella had shown kindness, generosity, but the evidence was overwhelming. And when it was Marina's turn to testify, the silence in the room was absolute. Marina walked to the witness stand with firm steps. She swore to tell the truth. Prosecutor Nelson began with questions about the events of that day. Marina answered calmly, describing every detail. Her voice did not waver when speaking about the shove, the fall, the fear of losing her son. "How did you feel at that moment?" the prosecutor asked. Marina looked directly at Isabella. "I felt fear. Fear that my son wouldn't survive. Fear that my last memory would be of pain and betrayal. But I also felt sadness. Sadness at realizing that the person who hurt me was herself, so hurt that she only knew how to express pain by causing more pain." The defense lawyer rose for cross-examination. "Mrs. Albright, don't you think your father used this incident for personal revenge? That he amplified an already painful situation to satisfy his own desires for punishment?" Marina did not avert her gaze. "My father acted in the way he thought was right to protect me. Do I agree with all his methods? No, but I understand that he acted out of love, even if a misguided love. Isabella, on the other hand, acted out of resentment and jealousy. There's a difference. But didn't you show compassion for my client at the gala? Didn't you say she needed help?" "Yes. And I still believe that." Marina looked at Isabella again. "I believe she needs treatment, support, a chance to rebuild her life. But that doesn't negate what she did. Justice and compassion are not mutually exclusive. She needs to answer for her actions, and then she needs help to ensure she never acts like that again." The defense tried a few more questions, but Marina remained firm, balancing accountability with humanity in a way that impressed even the judge. When it was Isabella's turn to testify, she walked to the stand with trembling hands. Her lawyer led questions about her childhood, her traumas, trying to build a narrative of a broken person who made a terrible mistake. But when the prosecutor began his cross-examination, Isabella broke down. She admitted the premeditation of the confrontation. She admitted that she went to the hospital specifically to intimidate Marina. She admitted that the shove, though impulsive, was the result of accumulated anger. "Why did you do it?" the prosecutor asked. Isabella wiped her tears. "Because I wanted her to feel a fraction of the pain I felt. Because, in my distorted mind, she was to blame. She had everything. The family. The name. The man I loved. And I had nothing. Never had. So I wanted to take from her what I could never have. I wanted to destroy her fairy tale as mine was destroyed. And now, how do you feel about it?" Isabella looked at Marina with eyes full of remorse, ashamed, horrified with myself. "I could have hurt an innocent child. I could have caused an irreversible tragedy. And why? Because of a man who didn't even respect me enough to be honest. Because of a fantasy I created in my head. I destroyed my life and almost destroyed hers for absolutely nothing." Closing arguments were presented. The defense appealed for clemency, arguing that imprisonment would not solve Isabella's problems, that she needed treatment. The prosecution argued that the gravity of the action demanded proportional consequences. The jury retired to deliberate. 2 hours later, they returned. The verdict was unanimous. Guilty. The judge announced the sentence: 2 years in prison, with the possibility of parole after 1 year subject to good behavior and participation in rehabilitation programs. In addition, Isabella was to pay significant compensation to Marina and perform 300 hours of community service in shelters for victims of domestic violence. When the sentence was read, Isabella did not react. She simply lowered her head, accepting. Marina watched without an expression of triumph. There was no victory there, only the necessary closure of a painful chapter. Outside the courthouse, the press surrounded Marina. She prepared to make a statement. "Today, justice was served. I do not celebrate this. There is no joy in seeing someone condemned, even if their actions have caused immeasurable pain. What I hope is that all of us can learn from this, that women in vulnerable situations find support instead of judgment, that hurt people seek healing instead of revenge, and that all of us remember that behind every headline there are real human beings with real lives." A reporter shouted, "And what about your husband? Will he be prosecuted too?" Marina sighed. "Raphael has already lost my trust, my respect, and his family. He is paying the price of his choices in other ways. My focus now is my son. It is to build a future where he grows up surrounded by love, honesty, and integrity. The past stays behind today." Octavia stood beside her throughout the statement. When she finished, he hugged her. "You were incredible in there." Marina smiled slightly. "I learned from the best. But Father, I need to ask you something. Anything. Don't seek any more revenge against Raphael. Let the natural consequences of his actions be enough. He has already lost everything that mattered. Continuing to pursue him will only hurt more people." Octavius hesitated, but finally agreed. "For you, only for you." As Marina and Octavius left the courthouse, neither of them noticed a man observing from afar. He wore dark glasses and a cap, blending easily into the crowd. He took a discreet photo of Marina before putting his phone away and disappearing among the people. That night, Marina was home when she received a package. The delivery man simply said it was urgent. Inside the box there was an envelope and a letter. The letter read, "Congratulations on your victory in court, but know that the full story has not yet been told. Not everything is as it seems. Some people have deeper secrets than you imagine, and soon those secrets will come to light. Be prepared." Marina felt a shiver. Who was sending that? What else could there be? She thought about showing it to her father, but something stopped her. There was a feeling that revealing that letter could unleash events she wasn't ready to face. She put the letter in a locked drawer and tried to forget. But in the back of her mind, a question persisted. What else was hidden? 6 months had passed since the trial. Marina had found a new rhythm in her life, Lucas grew healthy and joyful, bringing light to the darkest days. She dedicated herself entirely to motherhood, but had also begun working on creating a foundation aimed at supporting pregnant women in vulnerable situations. It would be named the Hope Institute, and its mission was to offer psychological, medical, and legal support to pregnant women facing difficulties. The project consumed her afternoons while Lucas slept. Marina studied models from other organizations, spoke with specialists, sought funders. Octavius fully supported it, offering both financial resources and his network of contacts. It was a way to transform pain into purpose. Raphael had moved to Edinburgh, Scotland. His company in London had practically gone bankrupt after Octavius withdrew all support and contracts. He visited Lucas once a month, always under supervision. The visits were cordial but distant. Marina realized that Raphael carried a weight of guilt he could never completely alleviate. Isabella was serving her sentence under an open prison system, working during the day in a women's shelter and returning to the correctional facility at night. According to reports reaching Marina through Marcus, Isabella had transformed. She actively participated in therapy groups, studied remotely, and showed genuine remorse. Marina even considered visiting her, but she didn't feel ready yet. Everything seemed to be finally settling down until the anonymous letter came back to haunt Marina. It was a Tuesday afternoon when another package arrived. Marina opened it alone this time, as Beatrice was at the market. Inside, there was a USB drive and another handwritten letter. Dear Marina, the time has come for you to know the complete truth. What happened at the hospital was not accidental in its timing. It was orchestrated. Someone very close to you knew exactly what Isabella planned to do and did nothing to stop it. In fact, they encouraged it. Watch the files on the USB drive, and then you will understand that your family has darker secrets than you imagine. With trembling hands, Marina connected the USB drive to her laptop. There were 3 audio files and a PDF document. She started with the first audio. It was a recording of a phone call. The quality wasn't perfect, but the voices were recognizable. One was Isabella's. The other made Marina's blood run cold. It was Raphael, but there was a third voice. A male voice Marina couldn't immediately identify. She turned up the volume. "Are you sure she'll be alone?" the unknown voice asked. "Yes," Raphael replied. "The appointment is at 10 in the morning. I said I had an urgent meeting. She'll be alone in the waiting room. And you think Isabella will do what needs to be done? If she follows the script we gave her, yes." Raphael sounded confident. She just needs to scare Marina enough, make her realize that this marriage has no future, that the baby would be better raised away from me. What if it goes wrong? What if Marina gets really hurt? Silence for a few seconds. Then Raphael replied, his voice cold. "It's a calculated risk." Marina felt nauseous. She paused the audio, unable to continue. Raphael knew he had planned it. The man she loved, the father of her child, had consciously put her life at risk. But who was the third voice? Marina needed to know. She opened the PDF document. It was a series of bank statements. Transactions between an account registered in Raphael's name and another in the name of an offshore company. The dates were 2 weeks before the hospital incident. £50,000 transferred. The final recipient, revealed in a footnote, made Marina's heart stop. Henry Campbell, Isabella's defense lawyer. Marina reread the name several times, trying to process it. Raphael had paid Isabella's lawyer. Why? Nothing made sense. She listened to the second audio. This time, it was a conversation between Raphael and Henry. "So it's settled." Henry's voice was professional, almost bureaucratic. "I'll defend Isabella as if she were any other client. No one will suspect the connection, and when it's all over, she'll keep quiet about your involvement." "What if she talks?" "She won't," Henry laughed. "She signed compromising documents. If she talks, well, she'll incriminate herself. It's perfect insurance. And Marina? Will she find out?" "Not if you do your part. Keep playing the guilty but naive husband. The public will hate you for a while, but you'll survive. And without Marina and the baby in the way, you're free to rebuild your life as you wish." Marina closed the laptop, unable to continue. Tears streamed down her face. Raphael was not just an unfaithful husband. He was a conspirator. He had used Isabella as a weapon. He had paid her lawyer to ensure she wouldn't reveal the truth, and he was willing to sacrifice Marina and the baby for his own freedom. But there was still the third audio. With trembling hands, Marina pressed play. This time the recording was of a conversation between Henry and another person. A voice Marina finally recognized with a shock that left her breathless. It was Octavius. "Are you sure the plan will work?" Octavius asked. "Absolutely," Henry replied. "Raphael is predictable. He'll do exactly what we expect. He'll hire Isabella to create an incident. We'll have evidence of him orchestrating everything. And when that comes out, you'll not only have reasons to destroy him legally, but also to permanently separate him from Marina and your grandson." But Marina could get hurt. "A calculated risk," Henry repeated Raphael's exact words. "But you'll ensure the security cameras capture everything, that doctors are ready. The risk is minimal, and the gain maximal." Silence. Then Octavius spoke, his voice heavy. "Do what needs to be done. Just ensure my daughter and my grandson come out unharmed." Marina felt her world crumble. Her own father had orchestrated everything. He had used Raphael, Isabella, everyone as pieces on a chessboard. And she, Marina, had been the most valuable piece, the perfect victim who would generate the perfect justification for Octavius to do what he always wanted: remove Raphael and maintain total control over her and his grandson. She didn't know how long she had been crying when Beatrice arrived home. The older woman dropped her bags and rushed to Marina. "Darling, what happened? Are you feeling unwell?" Marina couldn't speak. She just pointed to the laptop. Beatrice read the documents, listened to the audios. Her face progressively paled. "My God!" Beatrice sat down heavily. "Marina, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. You've worked for him for 20 years. How could you not know?" "Because Octavius is a master at compartmentalizing information. He only tells me what I need to know to perform my tasks. This," Beatrice pointed to the screen, "this he hid from everyone." Marina stood up, pacing around the room. "He put my life at risk. My son's life." "For what? To control me? To get rid of Raphael?" "I think in his mind it was protection." Beatrice tried to understand as well. "He knew Raphael was toxic to you. He knew the marriage was destroying you. So he created a situation where you would have irrefutable reasons to leave, where no one, not even yourself, would question the decision. But it almost cost me my son." "I know. And that is unforgivable." Beatrice held Marina's hands. "Taz, what will you do?" Marina wiped her tears, her expression hardening. "I'm going to confront him. Now." An hour later, Marina walked into Octavius's office without warning. He was in a meeting with bank executives, but she didn't care. She walked in, placed the laptop on his desk and pressed play on the audios. The executives quickly left, sensing the tension. Octavius listened to everything in silence, his face an impenetrable mask. When it was over, he closed the laptop and looked at his daughter. "Who gave you this?" "It doesn't matter." Marina leaned over the table. "Is it true? Did you orchestrate everything?" Octavius sighed, running a hand through his grey hair. "Yes." The confirmation, even expected, was like a punch. "Why?" "Because you deserved more." Octavius stood up, his voice filled with conviction. "Raphael was destroying you. You were unhappy, trapped in a loveless marriage. I gave you a way out where you would be the victim, where everyone would support you, where you could start over without guilt, putting my life at risk. I had everything under control, doctors on alert, ambulance ready. The chances of something truly going wrong were minimal. But they weren't zero," Marina shouted. "And you gambled with your grandson's life because of your ego, your desire to control everything and everyone. I did it out of love. Love doesn't manipulate. Love doesn't put those it loves in danger. Love trusts." Marina backed away, looking at her father as if he were a stranger. "You don't love me. You love the idea of me you created in your head, the perfect daughter who obeys, who fits into your plans. Marina, it's not like that." "Then how is it?" Marina crossed her arms. "Explain it to me. Make me understand how a father who loves his daughter does what you did." Octavius remained silent for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was broken. "Because losing you would be the end of me. When your mother passed away, you became all I had left. And to see Raphael slowly destroy you, to see your smile disappear, your light fade, I couldn't let it happen. I preferred to risk it rather than lose you." Marina left her father's office without saying another word. Octavius's words echoed in her mind, but they brought no comfort, only more pain. She returned home in silence, Beatrice driving while respecting her need to process everything. In the following days, Marina isolated herself. She didn't answer her father's calls. She didn't reply to messages. She needed space to think, to feel, to decide what to do with that devastating truth. Lucas was her anchor, taking care of him, feeding him, cradling him in her arms. Those simple gestures kept Marina connected to reality, preventing her from getting completely lost in the whirlwind of emotions. It was Beatrice who finally broke the silence a week later. She entered Marina's room with a cup of tea and sat on the edge of the bed. "You need to know something." Marina looked at her, exhausted. "There are more secrets. I don't know if I can take it. This one you need to know." Beatrice took a deep breath. "I found out who sent you the files. I hired a private investigator without telling Octavius. And the answer—" She paused. "It was Henry Campbell, the lawyer." Marina sat up in bed, confused. Why would he do that? He was involved in the plan. Exactly. And when he realized how far Octavius was willing to go, when he saw that it wasn't just about freeing you from Raphael, but about completely controlling your life, he had a crisis of conscience. Beatrice handed her an envelope. "He sent me this. It's a letter for you." Marina opened the envelope with trembling hands. The letter was handwritten on letterhead. "Dear Marina, my name is Henry Campbell, and I worked for both your father and represented Isabella Montgomery in court. What I am about to tell you may destroy my career, but my conscience no longer allows me silence. I was hired by Octavius to orchestrate a situation that would justify permanently removing Raphael from your life. Your father found out about the affair between Raphael and Isabella months before the incident. He also discovered that Raphael was planning a confrontation between Isabella and you, motivated by his own desire to force an end to the marriage. Octavius intercepted these plans and amplified them. He offered Isabella money to confront you publicly at the hospital. He promised it would only be intimidation, that nothing serious would happen. Isabella, financially desperate and emotionally manipulated by Raphael, accepted. What Isabella didn't know is that Octavius was also manipulating Raphael, planting ideas in his head, making him believe the plan was his. The goal was to have both Raphael and Isabella criminally compromised, giving Octavius total control over you and your son. I participated in this out of greed. Octavius paid me very well. But when I saw you in court, when I heard your words about justice and compassion, I realized the monstrosity of what we had done. You deserve the truth. And more importantly, you deserve freedom. Freedom to choose your own path, without manipulations. Isabella also deserves the truth. She was used by all of us. Her punishment, though deserved for the action itself, was disproportionate, considering she was a pawn manipulated by much more calculating minds. I ask for forgiveness, knowing I don't deserve it. Henry Campbell. Marina finished reading with tears in her eyes. Everything was even worse than she had imagined. Her father had not only orchestrated the incident, he had manipulated every person involved as if they were puppets. "There's more," Beatrice said softly. "Henry also revealed that Octavius is planning to take custody of Lucas. He has documents being prepared arguing that you are emotionally unstable, that you need help, that he would be the most suitable guardian while you recover." Marina felt rage boil within her. Enough. She got out of bed. Enough. I will not let him control another second of my life. What will you do? What I should have done a long time ago. Take charge of my own story. 2 days later, Marina called a meeting at Marcus Taylor's office. Present were Marcus, Beatrice, and to everyone's surprise, Isabella Montgomery. Marina had obtained special authorization for Isabella to temporarily leave the open prison system. Isabella entered the room nervously, not understanding why she had been summoned. When she saw Marina, she stopped at the door. "I don't need to be here. If you want to confront me, I understand, but—" Marina interrupted her. "Sit down, Isabella, please." Confused, Isabella obeyed. Marina distributed copies of the documents and audios to everyone. "I gathered you all here because you all deserve to know the complete truth." Marina began. "What happened at the hospital was not just the result of jealousy, betrayal, or anger. It was a manipulation orchestrated by my father, with the help of people we trusted." She told everything, every detail, every recording, every revelation. When she finished, the silence in the room was heavy. Isabella was the first to speak, her voice trembling. "You're saying I was used, that everything was planned?" "Yes." Marina looked at her with genuine compassion for the first time. "You were manipulated. Raphael was manipulated. I was put at risk, all to satisfy my father's desire for control." Isabella began to cry. "I lost everything. My freedom, my dignity. And it was all a setup." "Not completely." Marina was honest. "You still made choices. You chose to get involved with a married man. You chose to confront me. The shove was real, but the circumstances that led to it were manipulated. You weren't thinking clearly because you were being emotionally controlled." Marcus leaned forward. "Marina, what do you intend to do with this information?" "I'm going to make everything public," Marina said with conviction. "I'm going to tell the full story. The press, the authorities, everyone will know. My father needs to answer for what he did." "This will destroy the Albright name," Marcus warned. "It will shake the empire your father built. I know. And it's time." Marina took a deep breath. "I don't want an empire built on manipulation and control. I want to rebuild something honest, something true." "And what about me?" Isabella asked. "Will I be able to appeal the sentence?" "I will testify in your favor," Marina said. "I will tell the judge that you were a victim of manipulation, that although your action was wrong, the mitigating circumstances are significant. I cannot promise that your conviction will be overturned, but I can fight for a reduction." Isabella stood up and walked to Marina. The two women looked at each other for a long moment. Then Isabella extended her hand. "Thank you. I don't deserve your compassion after what I did, but I am grateful." Marina squeezed her hand. "We all deserve a second chance, even when we don't think we do." That night, Marina published a detailed statement on her social media. She told everything: Octavius's manipulations, Henry's involvement, the complexity of the situation. She asked people to reevaluate Isabella's judgment in light of the new information. The repercussion was immediate and massive. The media exploded. Octavius's lawyers tried to control the damage, but it was too late. The Crown Prosecution Service opened an investigation. Henry was arrested for conspiracy and fraud. Octavius was summoned to testify. Marina did not answer any of her father's 20 calls that night. When he appeared at her doorstep the next day, she received him with Lucas in her arms. "You destroyed everything." Octavius seemed to have aged 10 years in a week. "Everything I built, everything the family represents, you did that to yourself." Marina remained firm. "I merely told the truth you tried so hard to hide. I did everything for you." "No, you did it for yourself, to feed your need for control, to prove you were more powerful than everyone. But power without integrity is empty, Father, and you just discovered that." Octavius looked at his grandson in Marina's arms. "At least let me see Lucas." "Not now." Marina took a step back. "You need to understand the weight of what you did. You need to make peace with your actions. And then perhaps we can talk about rebuilding some kind of relationship. But it won't be on your terms. Not anymore." Marina closed the door, leaving Octavius outside. It was the first time in her life she had closed a door on her father. And although it hurt, it was also liberating. 6 months later, Marina stood on the stage of a packed auditorium. It was the official inauguration of the Hope Institute. The foundation had grown beyond its initial expectations. With donations from ordinary people touched by her story, Marina managed to rent a large space, hire psychologists, social workers, and lawyers. The institute would offer comprehensive support to pregnant women in vulnerable situations. In the audience were Beatrice, Marcus, and to the surprise of many, Isabella. She had received a significant reduction in her sentence after the revelation of the manipulations. She was now performing community service and actively participating in support groups. She and Marina were not friends, probably never would be, but there was mutual respect. Dire recognition of two women who had survived the same hurricane. Raphael was not present. He had definitively moved abroad, trying to rebuild his life away from the scandal. He maintained minimal contact with Lucas through monthly video calls. Marina had made peace with this distance. Some wounds did not heal with proximity, but with space. Octavius was not there either. He was facing multiple lawsuits. His reputation was destroyed. The Albright empire was faltering, but Marina had heard through Beatrice that he was undergoing therapy, trying, for the first time in his life, to understand his own motivations. It was a start. Marina held Lucas, now 18 months old, as she delivered her speech. This institute is born of pain, but it is fueled by hope. It is born of the belief that we can transform our worst moments into our greatest lessons. Every woman who crosses these doors will be received without judgment, will be heard without interruption, will be supported unconditionally, because all deserve to choose their own path. All deserve freedom. All deserve fresh starts. Applause filled the auditorium. Marina smiled, feeling something she hadn't felt in a long time. Peace, not the peace that comes from the absence of problems, but the one that comes from knowing you faced the storm and survived, that you looked your demons in the eye and did not look away. That night, back home, Marina put Lucas to sleep. She sang a lullaby, stroked his dark hair, kissed his forehead. When he finally fell asleep, she watched him for a long moment. On her desk, there was a new letter, but this time, Marina recognized the handwriting. It was from Octavius. Marina, I don't expect forgiveness, I don't deserve it, but I want you to know that I'm trying to be better. I'm learning that to love means to let go, not to hold on. That to protect means to trust, not to control. It's hard to unlearn a lifetime of behaviors. But for you and for Lucas, I'm trying. When you're ready, if you ever are, I'd like to talk. Not to justify myself, but to listen. To understand who you truly are, not who I needed you to be. With love and regret, Father. Marina folded the letter and put it away. She wasn't ready to reply. Perhaps she never would be. But keeping it, instead of tearing it up, was something. It was a maybe, a possibility, a crack of light in a still closed door. She walked to the window and looked at the illuminated city below. London pulsed with life. Thousands of stories happening simultaneously, pains, joys, betrayals, reconciliations, all part of the complex human tapestry. Marina gently touched her belly, a gesture that had become a reflex. But now there was no baby there. Only the memory of when there was. The memory of the day everything changed, the day she fell, and the day she decided to rise, not as a victim, but as a survivor. Not as a piece on someone else's chessboard, but as a player in her own game. The phone rang. It was Beatrice. Marina, did you turn on the television? They're talking about the Institute on the evening news. It's beautiful. Marina turned it on and watched. The reporter spoke enthusiastically about the initiative, interviewed the first beneficiaries, showed the facilities, and then, to Marina's surprise, they showed a recorded testimony from Isabella. I was used, manipulated, and made terrible mistakes. Isabella's image filled the screen, but Marina Albright showed me that we can be more than our mistakes, that we deserve chances to start over. This institute is proof of that, and I am grateful for its existence, even if I don't deserve its existence. Marina felt tears streaming down. They weren't tears of sadness, they were of fulfillment, of purpose found in the ashes of tragedy. She turned off the TV and went back to Lucas's room. She sat in the rocking chair beside the crib and just watched him sleep. Her son, her redemption, her reason for enduring. Outside, the city continued its frantic dance. But there, in that silent room, Marina had found her center, her peace, her fresh start. And for the first time in a long time, she looked to the future not with fear but with hope, because she had learned the hardest lesson of all, that true power does not come from controlling others, but from mastering oneself, that freedom is not given, it is earned, and that love, true love, is built not on perfection but on truth. Marina closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. It always would. But she was ready, because now she knew who she was, and no one would ever take that from her again. Dear listeners, we hope Marina, Isabella, and Octavius's story has touched your hearts and provoked reflections on truth, manipulation, forgiveness, and new beginnings. This has been an intense journey through the complexities of family relationships and the price of control. If this narrative resonated with you, we invite you to subscribe to our channel to follow more stories that explore the depth of the human experience. Leave your like if Marina's story moved you, and share in the comments what lessons you took from this journey. Your reflections enrich our community and help us create increasingly meaningful content. We have also prepared a special playlist with other equally engaging stories about overcoming adversity, justice, and transformation. You can find it by clicking next. Every day we bring unique narratives that celebrate the resilience of the human spirit. Don't miss our upcoming content. Until the next story. And remember, we all deserve fresh starts. We look forward to seeing your comments.